Want to make sure we're recording.
Ryan didn't say he wasn't coming when I talked to him.
Pause.
How's it work? Okay. We're almost. Okay. We're good, Curtis.
Let's call to order the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Santa Clara on this 8th day of September 2022. We have asked Jeremy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and also offer the opening prayer at this time.
James.
James.
Jeremy's the architect.
I apologize, James.
A lot worse.
He's been here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee that we have this opportunity to be at this Planning Commission meeting, and we ask Thee to bless us that we can take care of the business before us and that we can seek out the best for our community here in Santa Clara. And we're grateful to be able to live here for the safety and the security and the happiness that we have living here. And this is our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And again, I apologize for that. Do we have any communications that aren't on the agenda, Jim, that you know about?
We don't at this time.
And I guess the only special appearance we have out in the congregation, we'll hear from him shortly, so we won't handle any of that at this time. At this point, let's move to general business on the agenda. Number 5A1, the approval of the wall sign for the Alo Urgent Care located over on Pioneer Parkway. And Jim, are you presenting this?
Yes, I am.
Turn the time over to you.
All right, thank you. I was just going to bring the pictures of the sign up for you. Okay, so this building is located at 3663 Pioneer Parkway. And as you're familiar with it, this building currently houses the Quenchit and Royal Thai. The Alo Care will be utilizing 2 of the suites in that building, suites 1 and 2. We do have the applicant I was working with is Chad Christensen. We have another representative here with Turnbow Signs representing the Alo Care for these wall signs. Our sign ordinance is located in Chapter 1744 of City Code, and it states that wall signs are allowed in the Planned Development Commercial Zone. So this is in that PDC zone up on the corner of Rachel and Pioneer Parkway, that these signs are subject to Planning Commission approval. And I've already indicated this business will be in the same building as Quenchit and Royal Thai. So they're proposing a total of 3 wall signs for the business. And specifically, section 174409C indicates that wall signs may not exceed 10% of the total wall square footage of the wall on which the sign is placed. So the applicant has provided some calculations indicating that 10% would allow for a wall sign of 72 square feet per side. However, each proposed sign is 42 square feet, roughly 3.5 feet by 12 feet in size. And so now I'll go over the 3 proposed signs. And so when we say front elevation, this is the front of the building. As you know, the back of the building faces Pioneer Parkway. The front faces to the south. So you can see the Alo Care sign. It looks to be kind of a brown in color, similar to the building between the entries themselves, that brown color with the siding. This sign does not include internal illumination. It's non-illuminated, which is good because we know the residents to the south have had concerns about lighting in the area many other times. So we're grateful that they're not proposing to do illuminated signs there because we would have a concern as with the residents. If we go around to the side of the building, it says back wall, but this to me is the side, specifically the east elevation where the drive-through is and the Quenchant menu board. They're proposing again a 42 square foot sign, the same dimensions. However, this one will include internal illumination, white in color, and you can see that right here. So it's a box with the lettering and the white illumination coming out through the sign text itself. And so you kind of get an idea of existing, proposed, and the night view. And then the last sign will be on the street side, which is the north elevation or back. Also 42 square feet, internal illumination in a box with white. And so you would see that, the illumination on two sides and the non-illuminated on the front, which faces the residence to the south. We don't have any items of concern with this particular application. This application can be approved by the Planning Commission. So planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the proposed wall signs for the Aloe Urgent Care located at 3663 Pioneer Parkway, Suites 1 and 2, subject to the following conditions, and I'll go through those briefly. First, that the three wall signs do not exceed 42 square feet in size per wall sign. Second, that the front elevation wall sign facing south be non-illuminated. Third, that the side elevation, back wall, and rear elevation, side street, wall sign be allowed to be illuminated with white lettering. And fourth, that a building permit be applied for and obtained prior to placement of the wall signs on the building. And that's all I have. The applicant is here if the Planning Commission has any questions of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning Commission, do we have any questions?
My only question is, I'm assuming on at dusk, off at a certain time, or is it on all night? On timer. Okay.
I've noticed we don't have any signs alongside the road. Is there something, because I know at Hearst, we have them along the road. Is there something along that road that we're not,
You mean the monument sign?
monument signs, yeah?
Yeah, it appears that Aloe Care is looking to do a monument sign. I had a property manager call me yesterday, but we want a shared monument sign because we have 3 users in this building. And so we need to see the design for a shared monument. And then the other building, which is going through review right now for their building permit, the second building to the west, they would have a monument sign as well. And we haven't received that yet. After that building's built and occupied, they'll probably come in with the signs for that. We're getting ready to be occupied, but we do want monument signs, but in the case of these 2 buildings, shared monument signs, because we can't have 3 monument signs for one building and 4 for another. It needs to be shared, and that's what was talked about previously. So
Okay, I was just wondering.
that might be something that we see soon. It's interesting in the PDC zone, it specifically says wall signs have to come to the Planning Commission for approval, but it does not require that with a monument sign. But if one comes, we'll still go to TRC and review it as a committee and look through the code to make sure it meets all requirements. So that one will probably be coming soon. As you know, O'Reilly's has a monument sign. They went with the tall one, even though when I said, could you please go with a 6-footer? Do you really need that? Like Dollar Tree did. And Bucks, has, theirs is a little bit different because it's a 20,000 square foot building retail. So yeah, we'll see more signs coming.
This one was clean. This one was easy. Square footage is simple. The views
Yeah.
are good. You could tell that they thought about the neighbors that are complaining about the others, so we're good that way.
Right.
We don't have any questions for you unless you have anything you'd like to say. It's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Shared with the 3 tenants in there. Yeah. And we'll work with
Okay.
you on that. So we'll need the Planning Commission to make a motion on this.
Okay, awesome.
So,
Well, if that, I'll say, I recommend the Planning Commission approve the proposed wall sign for Aloe Urgent Care located at 3663 Pioneer Parkway, Suites 1 and 2, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the 3 wall signs do not exceed the 42 square feet in size per wall sign, as shown, that the front elevation wall sign facing the south be non-illuminated. as shown that the side elevation, back wall sign, and rear elevation, street side signs shall be allowed to be illuminated with white lettering, and that a building permit be applied for and obtained prior to placement of the wall signs on the building.
Second.
We have a motion by Mark and a second by Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion passes with unanimous consent this time. Thank you.
Easy peasy.
Thanks for coming.
So Jim, on that, I know I'm probably out of line here, but why the difference between a monument sign and a building sign?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Probably just an oversight when the code was
I think so.
addressed.
I think so. And I think it's something we need to address
I think it needs
because
to come here.
it does. It does. It's something we need to address. It's just, we've got some things in the works that we're working on and we need to add this to the list. But
Evolving.
it does. Yeah, the PD zone, we need to update it. And then we need to update the sign code as well. But we've got the construction design standards for the city and the subdivision ordinance a little bit ahead of it. And those things are coming soon. But that's a great comment and I agree. In some cases, we can review signs concurrently with the site plan review like we did
Right.
for the one on the corner of Country and Santa Clara Drive, which is still coming.
Yeah.
Which is still coming. They're working on it. But we reviewed that as part of the building design, the elevations, the signage. We reviewed all of that with that one. This one, I guess the signage wasn't reviewed at the time, or it was spoken about very generally. And so that's why we've brought it back. And we're following the example of Swig and Mobetas and some of the others in the area that have been brought to you for those signs in the past. So
There's just a lot more of a potential to have an eyesore as a sign like that rather than up on a building, at least there.
Right.
But alongside the road, that could be, so that's definitely
right.
needs to be looked
And
at.
so our interpretation is that building gets a monument sign and they can share it.
I
You know,
can't remember
so-
for sure, but I think the monument sign was in that site plan that we saw originally,
Okay.
because myself and a couple of our investor buddies were gonna buy that building too.
Oh,
We
okay.
got scared. Spencer Richens kind of scared us when we started talking about the foundation needs for the pylons and things. So I sticks in my mind. I saw that in that site drawing, but I couldn't tell you that for sure.
I think they had wall signs. That's.
Yeah, they had the wall signs and the different things, but they didn't have, I thought they had a monument sign placed.
Very general. Okay.
Yeah.
We can look a little closer. We thought it was pretty cut and dry and to bring them.
And I would think that monument sign would need to be 4 and 4, not 3 and 4, even though, because the potential for that suite to be split back to 2 suites. is there
Yeah.
too, so.
Okay.
Well, let's move on.
It is on our list, Commissioner Hendrickson.
I'm
Thank
sure.
you. There's a list.
A long list.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a discussion item under bullet point 6A, the brief overview of Title 16 subdivisions.
Yeah, I wanted to make the planning commission aware of the fact that we have been asked to update Title 16, the subdivision ordinance. That came from the mayor and council. And we are also right now working on the construction design standards for the city. And so those design standards that developers have to design a project to and meet those standard specifications and details are mentioned in the subdivision ordinance. So we need to make sure the reference is correct to the construction standards. That's one thing. And we're working on those design details right now. That's an item that's approved by the council because it's not city code. There's standard specifications and details for construction. And when we get through that, we're anticipating, we've had a group that's been meeting on that for 3-4 months now. And the mayor's leading that effort. I'm on that committee. Other engineers are on that committee with our public works director and other city staff as needed. We're going through that cleanup and update and revisions to make it a good document that's not out of date. And so we're doing that right now. We're anticipating that will probably be adopted by the council sometime in November. But here, there are some things that we need to amend in our subdivision ordinance. And a lot of it stems from the recent, a good part of it, water, right? Well, our water efficiency and conservation standards, because there's a lot of things that were put in that code for the city. The Conservancy District wanted to roll that out for all the communities in Washington County. A number of communities have adopted it, the communities that are populated. We were first, and then Washington City came shortly thereafter, Ivans, now St. George has something, took them a number of months. There are other communities, but some communities are saying no. And I think they're being short-sighted by doing that because how are they going to have water? One of the big pools here is basically they're going to roll out some policies first of the year, and they're asking cities to put some of the stuff that was adopted in the water conservation in the subdivision ordinance. So it's making reference to it as well. And so one of the big items is water, of course, but preliminary plat approval. So when you get preliminary plat approval in a lot of cities, you can put the improvements in place before you record the plat and post the bond. And that's what most developers choose to do. We do have some that want to record and they post a bond to guarantee all the improvements. But, that type of bond can be millions and millions of dollars depending on the size and scale of the project. So most of the developers that we deal with, they get their preliminary plat approval, they get their construction drawings in, and then they start putting in those improvements, those horizontal improvements, the roads, the streets, curb and gutter, utilities, that type of thing. And then they'll come back and record the plat later and post a bond to guarantee those improvements for 1 year in time. And then the city can release that if everything is still good. But what the Conservancy District is saying, a preliminary plat approval is good in our eyes for 1 year. We can guarantee the water if you come in and pay your fee and go through the process for a 12-month process at preliminary plat. If you don't record the plat within 12 months, you have to ask for an extension. So what that's going to do is it's going to require developers to think about their project and probably do more phasing of 20, 30 lots rather than taking down 50 or 100 lots. And so we don't have a lot of area where they're going to take down huge subdivisions, but areas and Commissioner Logan Blake could tell us because he's a civil engineer by trade. He's done a lot of large plats out in Hurricane of 200 and 300 lots, and developers go and get preliminary plat approval for 300 plus lots. Well, it may take them 5 or 6 years to build that out. Well, the water letter would expire. So the water approval. So we're trying to address that through our preliminary plat language as well as our final plat language, because you would have from preliminary plat to get it done and record the plat 12 months. Then you can ask for an extension with us, but you also have to go to the Conservancy District and ask for an extension of that 1 year approval. And then final plat, once you get your final plat approved, you have up to 12 months to record it. Now, most developers record that final plat pretty quick if they've put all the improvements in and they're looking to start selling lots. So they'll do that quickly. So we have to address that in both our preliminary plat requirements and our final plat requirements. So we're looking at some changes. We have to add some language about vesting and entitlements, because technically the preliminary plat doesn't completely vest you and entitle you at your cost or your expense. You can go and put all those improvements in place and then record the plat, but it's the final plat that guarantees that once you record that. But most developers do go and do their improvements based on the preliminary and the construction drawings that have been approved by the city. They generally proceed with that. So our subdivision ordinance is approximately 39 pages, maybe 40. So there's a lot going on with the subdivision ordinance and updates that need to be made. So the way it's structured is we have general provisions, just like we do with any section of code. Definitions, we're looking at all those definitions, what applies and what doesn't anymore. Approval of subdivision plats, kind of your approval process. Then we get into the preliminary plat requirements and everything that's required of a preliminary plat. And then our approval procedure. And so we're being clear and defining in that as directed by city legal counsel, working with other cities as well. So we're really kind of honing in on the language. I mean, specifically, and I don't have a draft to share because it's just working right now. And we're going to bring this back to you. I'm just letting you know we're going to try to get something adopted by the end of the year. So this will probably come back to you in October for another discussion, and then a public hearing in November is the likely timetable, because I'm working with Matt Entz and others right now on drafting this. I'm doing my parts and he's doing certain parts as well. But so, we have language about them submitting their plat. once we find the plat application to meet the requirements and be complete, then we'll set it for a planning commission date. Once the planning commission determines that the preliminary plat is complete, then they can make a recommendation to the city council for final approval. And then there's language about the city council granting the approval. And then we have, upon approval of the preliminary plat and approval of the construction drawings, a permit may be issued which allows the applicant to begin construction at their own risk of the infrastructure improvements required for the subdivision prior to the final plat approval. Issuance of a permit to construct infrastructure prior to final plat approval does not constitute a vesting of development rights. So we're getting into that language. And then, so we have that approval procedure, and then we also have approval procedure for final plat. And so we talk about after the preliminary plat has been approved by the city council and all conditions are complied with, a final subdivision plat shall be prepared and submitted to the planning department. The final plat shall be required to go through the same approval process as the preliminary plat, and it refers to the section in Title 16. In addition, all applications to subdivide real property shall comply with the requirements of Utah State Code Title 10, Chapter 9A, so the LUDMA requirements that you've heard about. And then a final plat must be recorded with the Office of the County Recorder within 1 year of the date of city approval. And so we get into that because we now want to put that year date on, or they have to apply for an extension with us as well as the Conservancy District because they're only guaranteeing that water for a year. Yeah. I think so. I think that's the case.
You have to go back.
Actually-
12 months and get that letter.
Yeah,
renewed,
yeah.
Even after it's been recorded.
Yeah, even after the plat's recorded, there's limitations. So he is correct. That has been discussed. And that's why they're having workshops and discussions with home builders and developers so they understand. So we have our provisions with preliminary plat that run with it and then final plat. But then the developer has to keep in good standing with the Conservancy District to make sure he can continue to use those water rights that have been, spoken for or put in place. That part, no. No, that part after the plat's recorded, it's on them.
But see this was the language that was a big thing with
Right.
Southern Utah home builders, that when this was all going through, it was that language that even once it was recorded and you had to come back every 12 months, if you haven't sold that lot.
Right.
it goes with the-
What they heard was, I have to sell this lot within 12 months or.
That's correct. They lose their right. That's correct.
Unless they.
Selling the lot within 12 months. And then the person that purchased the lot may have fees that they have to deal with to keep that water right, if they don't build on that lot within a certain time. But
Yeah.
yes. So that it's such a finite resource. I mean, water is everything now, and they're dotting all I's and crossing all T's. So what you're going to see is a home builder take down 20 lots and then build the homes. Right? Or you might see a builder do some custom large lots and sell some lots off, but those builders need to be in tow and in line and have an understanding. But the word's out. The word's out. We have a lot of the home builders, they know they have to do a landscape plan and they have to get a letter and they have to do all these things. But now we're just putting it out there through the subdivision process, preliminary plat, final plat, that you have to do this. And so those are the keys. Those are the areas I'm working on. But then some of the other areas, we have design standards that kind of make reference to the construction standards that we're updating right now. So Public Works will be involved with that part of the update, as well as City Legal Counsel. Performance guarantee. So we're talking about that with City Legal Counsel, as well as, city staff, administration, finance, and others. What type of guarantee are we going to take? Cash bonds are great. If someone wants to do cash, that's great. But we also have, and you're in that world, Shelley. I mean, the option of a letter of credit or an escrow. We're very concerned about sureties. My experience with sureties are pretty much anyone can get one. And then if you have to draw on the surety, you cannot get, they will not pay out. I have experience with a project that it took us 2 years to get anything. And then maybe it was 50% of what we thought we would get because we were competing with hundreds of other projects. It was during the recession. the sureties are very difficult to draw on. And so that concern's coming from legal counsel and others there on that.
Getting tougher.
So we'll have to see where that goes. But so those are the different sections. I'm, dealing with definitions and the subdivision plats, preliminary and final plats. Others will be helping me with the design standards, the performance guarantee. It's a collective effort. This ordinance is good size. I just wanted to put it on your radar that we are likely to be back in October, if not early November, to try to get something on the books by the end of the year. And so this has become a priority, and the Conservancy District's asking all cities to update their subdivision ordinance to include some of these sections. And we've decided, since we're doing that, now's the time to update on the design standards to tie in with other things we're doing in the performance guarantee and other provisions that we've identified that aren't relevant anymore or viable, things that aren't happening. So now's the time to update the whole thing rather than just piecemealing it. Let's do the whole title. So that's where we're at. The whole chapter. It's interesting because Title 16 is our subdivision ordinance. Title 17 is our land use ordinance, but we're over 16 and 17. Other sections of city code where we've made some updates recently, Chapter 10 and Chapter 12 come to mind, or Title 10 and 12. Those go straight to the council because they're not land use. Land use matters through LUDMA come to the Planning Commission. So you're going to see all of Title 16 and anything in 17. But other things like animal control, abatement of nuisances and code enforcement, those are city code that go right to the council rather than the Planning Commission. So that's all I had. I just wanted to give you an update just so you're in the loop.
So my question there is like, do you go to your Utah League of Cities and Towns and get information from them? What's been done elsewhere to get valid points and not have to recreate the wheel totally?
That's what we're doing. Matt and I are working on this together. We're looking at examples other communities have done to fashion an ordinance that fits us. We do not want to recreate the wheel or reinvent the wheel, but we do have things that would apply and other things that may not. And so it'll be tailored for us. But there are some good examples. St. George is newly adopted ordinance is a good example. What they chose to do, rather than adopting the water conservation ordinance quicker, like we were asked to do, they chose to go through the entire city code provisions that would have anything to do with it. So they have a definition section, they have a subdivision ordinance, they have their site plan ordinance, they have their, subdivision, the different ordinances that applied. So they took all these ordinances and did it with their staff and legal counsel together and just got them adopted in the last 30 days. But they've taken that much time because they decided to put everything together rather than separate. We're kind of dividing and conquering, and I think that's okay too, because a lot of people were saying, what's taking so long? Just tell us. This pending ordinance, you're over the 6 months. That's a no-no too, right? I mean, you got to comply within what the state code tells you. So that's where we're at.
I don't think people realize that 6
Yeah.
months either.
No, 6 months doesn't give you a lot of time. When you put the pending ordinance in
Fast.
place, 6 months goes really fast because usually it's 2 to 3 before you get a draft to share with people, and then you're really boogieing through it. But Matt's on this, I'm on this, and other city staff are on this. I'm hoping the second meeting in October we'll share a draft with you, and then we'll bring it back in November. We want to do this a step at a time, not just show up and say
Right.
we're in dire straits. Here's the ordinance. So that's all I have for tonight. Vice Chair, thank you.
Thank you. And we don't have any other discussion items that you know about? Planning Commission members, anything needs to be brought up?
The only thing is a reminder, we will not be meeting in 2 weeks. It conflicts
So
with
it'll be
Swiss
the
days.
13th of October.
We'll
will
see
be
you
our
the
next-
13th and 20th of October and the 27th as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Other than that, does everyone have the opportunity to look over the minutes? Everything look okay? Yes, at this time, we'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Since I was present, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting held on the 25th of August, as stated.
I didn't attend.
No,
Do you want me to?
And I can't be a second as a,
You actually can.
can I? Okay,
Yeah.
I will second those minutes
Yeah.
that were here and I was here. And So we have a motion by Mark and a second by myself on the approval of those minutes, so they'll stand approved. And we'll adjourn this meeting till the 13th of October, 5:30.
Thank you.
You guys do loans in Montana. The right person. Is that what you're saying, Shelley?